Graduates pass out from the university with an aspiration to make their mark in the labour market. But with the unemployment figures soaring, situation for graduates seems tough. Although the number of students going to university have increased 50% since 1990s, but with economic meltdown, things for graduates changed. Public sector freeze, spending cuts and VAT increase fueled unemployment in graduates. According to the new government, 2.5 million private sector jobs would be created, but it's too soon to predict. Richard Tengroos, in charge of government scheme and project, highlights the core problem of depth faced by graduates today.
Experience is a lot of graduates do their 3 years at university and are actually going home at the end of it and living with mother and father, largely on the basis that's the cheapest way they can possibly live. And they can't afford to, if they don't get jobs, they can't afford apartments, they can't afford to live independently in a city. And ironically, you've done 3 years at university, and one young person said this to me very clearly. He said, I've spent 3 years at university, I'm back where I started from, but I've got a £40,000 debt over me now. And that is quite serious because young people's aspirations, their views of their future life, where they intended to be, are being dashed at the moment. And we have very high numbers of graduates unemployed in Birmingham. Probably 20% of our 18 to 25 unemployed in Birmingham are in fact graduates. And that's a huge waste of investment if you think about it.
Kate graduated from the University of Westminster in Fine Arts, but she was left with no option than to move with her family. She also registered for a job seeker allowance since she was unable to find a job. Work experience was the only criteria she could not fulfill.
Looking for jobs in galleries or working with artists, and I couldn't find any work that was actually paid, so I was unemployed for about 6 months. Probably about 2 months of being unemployed, I signed on for a job seekers allowance. Being unemployed was probably the worst thing that I've done for quite a long time because it really sort of puts you down and makes you very demoralised, and you think, what was the point of doing my degree? And I did a bachelor's degree, so wasn't the worst degree in the world, but it was really hard to get anything with that. Every job that I looked at in working as a technician or working in sort of other galleries, they all wanted lots of experience, which just being a graduate, I had no experience. And I go to the job centre every other week, look for jobs, and all the jobs were just not at all in my area of work.
University was also not helpful in giving her the necessary support.
No, my university weren't very helpful. My course wasn't very helpful. I think they perhaps expected you to become an artist straight away, but very rarely will you graduate and be able to support yourself through the money that you get being an artist.
The number of applications received for a job role have almost doubled this year, and so recruiters are finding it difficult to manage.
We could get anywhere up to 300 applications just for one position. The more technical and more specific the skills are and the competencies required, then there's fewer people that apply. So to give an exact number, we're probably getting on average 70 applications per role that we advertise.
A report from Richard highlights that out of 20,000 graduates that top employers plan to recruit this September, almost half of it have been cancelled or left unfilled. So when do we see the improvement in the job market?
Personally, no. I don't think we'll see any improvements in broad terms where we can see a real increase for another 12 to 18 months. I think there needs to be a big change in the careers service and the way that the government is going to tackle the careers service through connections, because the careers advice that currently gets given through colleges, universities and schools probably isn't the best advice that is available. And the recruitment sector as a whole can help and assist that, and we work with Job Centre Plus and we work with the government on a number of sectors to ensure that we try and expand the knowledge for graduates. And I think we've got to give a lot more information to graduates when they're actually in university going through the courses about what is actually expected in the roles when they come out of it. And the companies that have done the large graduate recruitment intakes over the past 2 years, they've all been hit by the recession. So a lot of work and a lot of companies have kind of put a recruitment freeze on themselves, the same as the government has. So we've kind of got 2 years worth of graduates that are going to be on the marketplace that haven't got work, plus you've already got the graduates that are going into next year. So by the end of next year, we've probably got a good 3 years worth of qualified graduates that will still be, majority of them, potentially looking for work.
Figures from Office for National Statistics indicate that graduate unemployment increasing from 24,000 to 746,000 in the last 3 months. Job vacancies were also severely hit by 1,000 to 428,000 this quarter. Unemployment have shocked many, but still people are finding ways to cope with it. Stanley, an economist and a lecturer at Birmingham University, is optimistic about the opportunity for college graduates.
To look at trends, there's been a big increase in the number of graduates in this country. If we look back 30 years ago, about 10% of the people had a degree. Nowadays, it's more like half people under 25 would expect to get a degree. So there's been a great increase in the number of people with degrees, but there hasn't been a big decline in what we call the earnings premium to having a degree. Still getting the jobs, so there's been a big increase in the supply of jobs for graduates too. Businesses around the country want graduates. That's the trend.
No doubt, due to the public sector cuts, graduates has been losing out jobs. Now the whole hope for graduates lies in taking up internship program, graduate schemes and many other, in which there have been a huge investment from government and private bodies. As long as the CV does not look blank, one still holds a fairer chance in competing for the job market. Recently, the coalition government has announced 50,000 apprenticeship and training program investing 150 million. It's also working on some of the earlier programs until the new policies have been implemented. CBI, the voice of business, have come up with 7,000 training programs and looks forward in the growing sectors.
What we're trying to do is encourage both government and our members, the employers out there, to look at ways in which they can help. And the government's got, the new government, the coalition government has got new programs. It's putting a big emphasis on trying to create apprenticeships so that we can get these youngsters with the right sort of skills that they will need. I mean, you've got to look at what industries will grow in the future. Where's the growth in jobs going to come? And that's right across the spectrum. It might come in people who are providing care. Construction would be another one. And also, if you look forward at what's going to be required for the low-carbon economy, the knowledge economy, how we provide better energy sources and supply in the future. So we need to match that with the sorts of skills that employers will need as we look forward.
Institute of Director have also benefited many talented youths, giving them opportunity to gain some good work experience through their graduate internship scheme.
We took about 500 graduates onto the scheme, and the majority of them went into small to medium enterprises, and about half of them have now been taken on by small companies.
IOD is also working more globally to improve the job market.
We'll have a big conference in October in this room here. We'll be looking at India, we'll be looking at the Middle East, we'll be looking at China. So opportunities for companies, particularly small companies, because that's where the growth is going to come from, to operate within our region.
Stephen graduated from the Aston University. After facing unemployment for some time, he was smart enough to take IOD internship scheme and now looks ahead for a brighter future.
Well, when I graduated last July, basically was working at Tesco, but obviously wanted to move away from that, and didn't really take, because I didn't do a placement year, and didn't really have too much on my CV, but sent out loads of applications, you know, spent days doing applications. It's the main thing I did in my spare time, and then, you know, just really wasn't getting anything back from them. Majority of it was because didn't have the required experience, or, you know, just wasn't specific enough for the job. But there wasn't really too many job roles out there to be applying for. and especially I ended up applying for roles that I didn't really want, or didn't really, wasn't really what I had a passion for, and then so I decided to take this internship really, which is not necessarily well paid, but I was just need that extra bit of experience to help me get further in the future really. I just see it as a stepping stone to a better paid, better future role.
These 3 youngsters were benefited from the Government Future Job Fund. Although this fund is coming to an end, Kate with her other 2 colleagues were lucky enough to grab this opportunity.
So my sort of idea was, as I said, to work in lots of galleries. And because I was only volunteering, I never got any sort of high position. I only sort of did the little jobs, the building the exhibitions or doing some paperwork or doing a mailing list. So it was all stuff that I was learning, and that was really good. For the last 6 months I've been paid for working here 30 hours a week, which is really good. It's only minimum wage, but it's not really the money that counts, it's more the fact that I've got 6 months to really sort of prove that I'm worth getting a job in a gallery. And it gives me that experience which all the other jobs that I couldn't apply for required of me. So now after this 6 months of being paid through the government, the gallery has taken me on for another 6 months, which is really good. So it means that I get to work here for an entire year doing lots of different things.
The employment market for graduates will improve when the overall economy grows. But according to the recruitment report 2010 and 11, opportunities for graduates still remain greatest who have achieved higher levels of education and good work experience. Isha Shukla for MAIB Check.